Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, hosted by Concept 3D. If you like our content, please follow and subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, and Google. As always, I'm Shiro Otori, your host, and today I'm very excited to talk about aligning your strategic plan to your website redesign. And for that conversation, I'm thrilled to have Megan Malone join us. She is the Director of Digital Strategy at UA Little Rock. Megan, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I do like to ask all my guests this as well, which is please tell us what you love about higher ed.
Okay, so at our university, we serve a really diverse audience. You know, our average student age is about 24. So my favorite thing is seeing our students go through their time here and then graduate, because a lot of our students are parents, they are working adults. We have grandparents that are graduating that finally got their degree. So it's just kind of seeing those special, unique cases of people that worked really hard to get their degree and just see how it's really going to change their life and change their family's lives.
I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I thought it was a primarily undergrad, like had a high school program. So that's really unique.
Yeah.
Well, great. I know we got a chance to meet at AMA last week, which was really good. We got to meet in person. I really enjoyed that. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background and your role as well?
Yeah. So I've been at the university working for a little over 15 years. I got my undergrad here, actually. I did come fresh out of high school, like a traditional student. And then later after graduation came back and started working in the communications and marketing office. And I have literally worked my way up. And now I am managing our web team. We've got 6 full-time people, and it's a great team. We're in central communications, so the whole office is about 12 people. And we serve all kinds of, all the departments, organizations, different colleges at our university. And it's a really great team to be a part of.
That's amazing. Can you tell me a little bit more about your role? Like you said, you have 6 FTE roles, like kind of what each person owns. This is something that's new to me as well.
Yeah, so we've got 2 developers. We've got a front-end developer and a back-end developer. So right now they are really busy building our website because we're in the final stages of our redesign. And we have a full-time content person, a web content specialist, and she helps me a lot. So she was instrumental in our content audits that we did over the past couple of years. She edits, updates, so she's just super valuable for what I'm doing. And we have a web analyst, so she oversees our Google Analytics, and she also works, kind of monitors she monitors the ads, our ad campaigns. So she works with digital marketing a lot. And then we have a social media person. So she's part of our web team. We just were able to hire that new position this year. So we have a full-time person that oversees the university's social media channels.
I like that the website is kind of like the fundamental North Star and everything trickles down into that. I really like that.
Yeah.
The layout, I think it's very unique. So, and I mean, I'm a big proponent that your website is the most active building on campus. I know it's a digital building, but it's the most visited building on campus by far. So
Yes,
I think everything
absolutely.
should be structured around it. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of AMA, I know we got to meet in person. I wanted to ask you, what is one key takeaway you found or learned about at AMA last week?
There were several sessions that all talked about how important parent communication is. And they really talked about how the relationship between parents and this next generation, this Gen Alpha, that relationship is really more of a partnership. Parents are really valuing their kids' opinions and they want their kids' input. And it's a shift. It's different from probably the relationship we had with our parents. And so because of that, as marketers, we have to think about, what are we saying to parents? Are we even talking to parents? Because maybe we haven't been, but we need to. And we need to have like custom messaging that's focused on what parents want to know. because they're really trying to help their kids make decisions about college. They're not just leaving it up to the kids, which may have been how it was for my experience or your experience, but now that relationship is much more of kind of a 50-50 relationship. So I thought that was really interesting because I heard that in probably 3 sessions at least.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I remember I didn't just ask you this. I asked several people, like, what was your biggest takeaway from day one, day two? And I heard this several times. So it's definitely not just you, taking this away.
Hmm.
So this is very interesting. Did any of the sessions explain, like, why do you think this shift has happened at all?
Yeah, there was one session that said, if you think back to COVID 2020, which for next fall, when this generation is starting college, that will be 5 years ago. And if you think back during that time, these kids were at their kitchen tables and their teacher was their mother or father in the kitchen. And it just kind of changed the relationship in families because parents were the teachers, they were the coach, they were the classmate, they were, coworkers with each other. And it just kind of changed that relationship because we were physically so much closer, but it just kind of made the emotional connection probably a little bit stronger. And I thought that was really interesting that they brought up that perhaps the pandemic is part of the contributing factors of this shift. Now, I think personally, maybe some of it is also that, parents now are maybe wanting to have a little bit more of a connection and close bond with their kids, which maybe they didn't have with their own parents. So it's kind of a chance to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's super fascinating. And I know you just, walked away with this last week, but what are like some
Mhm.
of the ways that you think are better or easier or more efficient at communicating to parents? Like I think maybe like Facebook is a better channel for it, but I'm just curious if you have any ideas.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, social media is still important for parents, but also getting parents to come to in-person events on your campus. So it's not just something that maybe the student needs to come, like with their school, which is still valuable, but it's really important to think about getting the parents here too, so that they can see your campus, they can feel that it's safe for their child to come there. They can think, yeah, I can picture my son or daughter here. So that was one of the ways is talking about in-person messaging and then or in-person events. And then for like social media content, thinking about changing the language a little bit, like making it more focused on the parent. Like, here are some things that your student or your child should know as they're getting ready for college. This is what they need to know for move-in day, and kind of making sure the messaging is for the parent. And that makes them feel really involved and like they know what's going to happen because parents really want to know what can they expect out of this experience for their child.
Yeah, this is super fascinating. I wonder how this is going to evolve. I know I've had a few guests talk about marketing to parents a lot more, but I definitely haven't seen it or heard it at this scale. So I'm
Hmm.
very excited to see what comes next for sure. Well, switching
Yeah.
gears a little bit on our topic here today, which is around website redesigning, right? And I believe that your next redesign is actually had a partnership at the strategic planning level. So, can you tell me a little bit more
Mhm.
about that, how that happened, and the genesis of that?
Yeah. So we officially kicked off our redesign back in 2020 during COVID. And it was something we wanted to do. We wanted to do the redesign, but we knew that it had to get buy-in from the top. Like that was the only way it was really going to be successful. So I put together a proposal of why this needed to happen. I showed examples of what our website looks like right now and what redesigned websites at other universities look like to kind of contrast, like, this is where we are, but this is where we could be. And I had a presentation with our chancellor, to our chancellor and her cabinet. And I think that was really helpful for them to see why this is so important. And our chancellor was all on board for it. And she gave us the green light. She supported the project, and we have been able to provide updates to her periodically so that she can kind of see what the progress is. I think if you're not a web person and you're telling somebody what's going on, it may have less of an impact if you can show them what's going on. So I used lots of screenshots and would send emails to her, or my boss may give her a presentation to kind of show this is what we're working on right now, and this is how it's going to look on your phone, so that she could really visualize the impact that these new web designs will have and this new functionality on the website. And as far as the strategic plan, it was time for a new strategic plan, and our chancellor put together a committee of people to help put it together. And I was asked to be on that committee as the representative from communications and marketing. And then later, my boss was able to join. And it was really great to be in that room with some of these university key players and to get to hear what was so important to our chancellor for the university, like where she saw things going. And I think having a seat at the table was just super important. And I'm very, very appreciative of that, because as I would hear things during these, planning meetings, I was able to take it back to my web team and be like, hey, this is where things are going. The chancellor is placing a very strong emphasis on student success and the student experience and research. And so we were very intentional, and we're able to think about the content on a university homepage and make sure it all ties back to the strategic plan.
This is amazing. We talk about getting marketing at the seat at the executive table often, but like this is like the next step of that, right? It's like even talking about website, which, going back to the start of our conversation, is the most important building or most visited asset in your entire campus, both digitally and physically. So it makes so much sense. I'm curious, what parts of the strategic plan are being distilled into parts of your website? I'd love to learn more. And I know we're not at launch yet, but what are you trying to do?
So we have a big focus on, student success and student support. So we're using designs and imagery and text that's talking about, come to school here, you're going to have access to all these internship connections because we're in the capital city and we have such great relationships with a lot of, businesses and industries here, thanks to our faculty. So you're going to have really great internships. You're going to have hands-on experiences, and we're using some storytelling on our homepage. So student spotlights of real students who have done these things, and here you can kind of read about it. You can explore some of the research that our undergrads and graduate students are doing. And we're kind of calling out some of the student support resources that we have on campus. Things like we have an incredible tutoring and learning center over in our library that's open to all students. They can just come and get help with all kinds of, subjects any time of year. It's not just during like finals. We have really good support for students who are parents. So we have like funding through childcare connections. We have support for mental health and counseling that students can get. We just want to be sure that we show students that we're going to support all parts of you, not just, going to books and getting a laptop and going to class. Your mental health is really important to us. Um, Highlighting student organizations that focus on diverse students. So no matter who you are, you're going to have a place here. We have all kinds of resources and support for no matter who you are as a student.
Got it. And I believe in our previous call, you mentioned that serving the primary audience, which is AKA your prospective students, is part of that strategic plan. So all of that content you just shared is like in the lens of like making students also really interested, because they see students and their work, the good work they're doing, and students support that UA Little Rock offers. Is that right?
Yes, when we first started our redesign project, we started with stakeholder interviews and some surveys, and we were able to talk to a lot of our, deans and vice chancellors and people that are over these areas. And we asked them, who do you think is our website's primary audience? And thankfully, they all understood that incoming prospective students is our primary audience. We have secondary audiences that are very important, current students, faculty and staff, alumni, community. But when it comes to like our homepage and some of those landing pages, the prospective student is the primary audience. And I think if anybody down the road maybe asks why we made this decision or why we made that decision, we'll be able to point back to that, the fact that unanimously we are serving our incoming students. And that that ties back to that strategic plan. This is why we're doing what we're doing. And like you said, the website's the most important building. We've told everybody the website is the most important marketing tool. So you want all parts of it to make sure you are sharing what the university is, their brand, how we are different than other universities.
Oh, this is great. I'm excited to see what happens when it goes live. It
Yeah.
kind of the flip side of all this, you've been doing a ton of work with this redesign, right? It's a multi-year project. You've probably learned a lot over the last couple of years as you've worked with maybe your data person, right? Especially on figuring out what was working, what wasn't. Do you have any recommendations for common mistakes that you've seen throughout the few years you've been trying to work on this redesign?
I think making sure that, if you're running digital marketing ads and you've got a CTA on them, be making sure that it's going to the right place. Sometimes it's really easy to say, hey, we're going to have a marketing campaign for these majors. And then the ad looks beautiful and everybody likes it. And sometimes it's an afterthought of, well, where's the ad going to go? And then you find out it's linking to some page that is old and outdated and not mobile friendly. And that can be a huge detriment to that student or that parent that clicks on the ad and they end up going to your website and they're like, yeah, and they leave. So you've lost somebody. So I think a mistake that people make is just not thinking through their whole marketing campaign. And then when you look at where ads are linking, is it providing updated information and content? And then can that person do anything on that page? Like, are you wanting them to fill out a form? Are you wanting them to watch like a 30-second video and learn more about your program? Are you wanting them to sign up for a campus tour? So making that action really easy for them. Making sure if you have a form that it's not super long, because they're not going to want to fill out something with like 32 fields on it. Just get that key information that you need, then they can fill it out and go on the rest of their day. So that's something that we are really excited about with the new site, as that is we've made our primary CTAs, they're in our global footer, and so no matter what page you're going to be on, you'll see those things. And that was something that our enrollment management people were really excited about. So we're making it very easy to request more information or schedule a tour or even apply.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know next steps, right? Next steps is a huge key component. The data side of this,
Mm-hmm.
I'd imagine you can even, if you're, wondering where to get started, if you feel like you're getting a lot of exits, you can probably look at this report and look at your most
Mm-hmm.
traffic pages and look at what your exit rate on that page is and start there
Mm-hmm.
too, right?
Yeah,
That's great.
analytics are you have to be able to look at those, and they just tell a whole story
Mhm.
that you may not be aware of.
And I know you mentioned campus tours. Is that a big part of your like overall student journey and funnel in terms of marketing?
It is, yeah. We've just found that if we can get somebody to campus, they are much more likely to apply for admission and enroll. Um, we've started recently even offering tours in Spanish. So our Spanish speaking community can come and get a tour that is just for them, because we serve a large audience of Spanish speaking students. And so we want to make sure that they feel just as welcome. So we're trying to, do things like that are maybe setting us apart from other universities nearby.
Yeah. And I went to a multicultural marketing session, AMA, and like their thing was like, don't just invite the Spanish speaking students, but invite their parents and
Yes,
their grandparents and everything. So that kind of
absolutely.
messaging brings the whole crew together, which is like
I think,
one of the things I learned.
yeah, we did a video recently on social media just talking about the tour, and it was all in
Hmm.
Spanish, and part of the language was about you and your family. Come, come check out our campus, because we know that that's such an important support system. So we want everybody to come and check it out together.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Um, and just kind of super high level, I know there's a ton of work that goes into a redesign. Is there like one or two things that you're personally really excited about with the website?
I'm excited about all of it. It looks so much better. I'm excited about the functionality. One thing that's been really important for us is to make sure it is mobile friendly on every device size. We've had a limitation in that currently. So yes, you can use our website on your phone currently, but you may not be able to fill out a form as well, or things are just crowded. So having that ability to access all the pages that you need on your phone is really important. And also, we've had a really, really big focus on web accessibility. So we're making sure that there have been things on our current site that we haven't been able to fix for accessibility reasons, that it's just baked into the theme. And with the new site, we're building everything to make sure it is accessible from the very beginning. So that's just kind of a huge, like, personal thing that I think our team is really proud of.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love the mention of accessibility. I know, at Concept 3D, where we're really passionate about accessibility as well. And given, I think there's a new DOJ ruling on accessibility, depending on your institutional size,
Hmm.
it won't come into effect till maybe 2020, end of 2025 or 2026. But I know there's definitely a need for websites and web tools to be more digitally accessible. So I love
Hmm.
that you really emphasized and focused on that. And of course, mobile first, right? All of our own
Yes.
data says mobile is always the majority now. It wasn't always the case, but it definitely is now.
Yes.
Well, great. Thank you so much for joining today. I think we're just at about time. I'm wondering where our listeners could connect with you, or your website, so when they can see the relaunch. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. I'm there. Our goal is to launch in February, so we're on track right now. It's crazy that we're already in the end of November, but yeah, our website is ualr.edu. So come check us out early next spring and let me know what you think. One thing we keep in mind is that the website is a living tool, and so I'm sure that there'll be things that we kind of tweak and adjust over the next year. But that's exciting because we get to do that. We get to see what's working and what maybe we need to make a little update on. But it's going to be great. I mean, we're really looking forward to it.
It's amazing. I am looking forward to it as well. Well, thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.